Hello and welcome. Today I'd like to give you a quick tour of my new workshop, which I'm calling the printing press. And I'm starting in the hallway so that you can see the most important feature of this room, and that's the cat force field. You might better know this as a door. And I've had to do several tries to get a lock that works. This isn't in all the way right now, but I bought this at Lowe's. It takes me 2 hands to operate, but somehow the cats in the middle of the night would figure out how to get it open. So I ordered this one off Amazon, and that has proven more effective. So it's easier for the cats to get in the room than it is for me. So anyway, now that we're inside, I will once again secure the cat force field, and now I can give you a proper tour. You've been in this room before, but it's been looking different every time I've shown it to you. You probably are most familiar at this point with my new end scale switching layout, and we'll get back to that later in the video. But what I've mainly been working on this past week is setting up all of my equipment to start my 3D printing business. And this used to be my home office. I have since moved that to a larger room. And I've mentioned before, this room is very small. It measures 5 foot by 9 foot. And when you can't build out, the best thing to do is build up. So a lot of the work in setting up this equipment has really just been building what I call the upper deck. And this is just a wood structure that I designed and put together myself. It uses the same kind of 1x3 boards as I used on my switching layout. And this is just Luan plywood, measures about 3/16 of an inch thick, that I used for the surface. And a lot of what you see up top here was just set up, so I haven't given it its first run yet, but I'll be doing that soon. I'm starting off here with the Cricut Maker, and this is just going to be a versatile tool. I'm going to be able to use it to do some vinyl cutting, and I'm also hoping to make detail parts for kits with it. I did buy a knife blade to cut basswood, balsa wood, probably sheet styrene, thinner stuff. I would like to someday upgrade to a laser cutter. I can't do that in this room, but this machine should get me started. And then moving over to these two machines, these two work together. This first one with the red box on top, this is an Elegoo Mars 2, and this is a Resin 3D printer. This is what I'll be using to make the more detailed parts, and the print quality on it is very good. I'm hoping to be able to make prints where you can't see the layer lines at all. The downside is it does have a smaller capacity than the filament printer, which you'll see in a minute. And I believe this build plate, which will go inside here when I set it up, I believe this build plate is only 5.5 by 3.25 inches. It's perfect for N scale and Z scale, but if I ever want to do HO buildings, I am most likely going to have to upgrade. And then its neighbor here with the yellow box, this is the Elegoo Mercury Plus. And this is a combination of a cleaning and curing station. And when you're working with a Resin 3D printer, this is all stuff I'll get into in future videos. But Resin has a lot of post-processing that needs doing. You have to clean the uncured resin first, and then you have to hit it with UV rays to really fully cure the resin that came out of the printer. And it could end up being a little bit of a messy operation, which is why I put down this thin plastic. It's actually a roll of shelf liner that I bought, but it'll protect the wood surface underneath these two machines. And I haven't run them yet because I do need to learn how, and I do need to get the cleaning fluid before I can do anything. Won't talk much about this machine. It's a standard laser printer. It also copies and faxes and scans. You might have one of those in your own home, so nothing too exciting there. So moving to the lower deck here, as I call it, I do have a remote control set of LED lights under here. There's one in each bay, and you can change that to warm light or cool light. I prefer the cool for working. And that lets me see what's going on underneath here. And I'll start with the more interesting side of things. This is my other 3D printer, and this one I have run a few times already. This is a Prusa Mini. I don't have the filament spool out now. It would rest on that support, which has roller bearings in it. And I actually set this printer up on New Year's Eve and played with it as the clock struck midnight. This Prusa nameplate was actually the first 3D print that I did. That was a test object that came with the printer, as was this benchy boat. These are very common in 3D printing, and they give you a method, hence the name, to benchmark different aspects of your printer. And I'll tell you what, I've watched a lot of videos on benchy boats. I think I got one of the best looking ones out there. And this printer is something I'll go into more detail about, you know, in later videos like everything else. But I plan to use this to make some of the 3D parts that I will be using on my layout and then selling to others. And then we just kind of have the business side of things here. This is the only room in the house that's wired for internet, so I have my modem and my router. And the biggest challenge in many ways of setting up this room was routing all the wiring. I actually have two surge protectors. They're probably not showing up well. I've actually zip tied one to this support, and then I have the bigger one out here, because in this room there is literally only one set of power outlets, and I am going to have to be careful that I don't run everything at once and overload it. And over here, this is something I bought off Amazon, and I think it looks really cool. This is quite simply a thermometer and a humidistat. And what's neat about it not only is the look, it kind of looks like it belongs in a steam engine or something, but I can actually rotate it out of the way, or I can rotate it like I had it to where I can see it readily when I walk in the room. And it is on the cool side. The 3D printers do like it in the 70s. I am going to have to figure out a way to run a power cord in here to run a space heater. I do like to keep my house cool. To me, this is very comfortable. But that's something I'll work out. And that bigger power strip had 2 USB ports, which is a nice feature. Now I don't have to take up, you know, an extra plug and reach back there to charge my phone or other equipment. So I just tack that down to keep it out of the way. And you're probably thinking that I said I moved my home office out of this room. I did. It was getting kind of claustrophobic working in here 24/7. But I built this so that I could set up this old Dell desktop PC. I am more of a Mac user. My business computer's in my home office for my main business. This one is going to be used for the 3D printing business. It was originally a CAD workstation at the company that I used to work for, so even though it's about 6 years old, it's still a very capable machine. And I've got 2 hard drives in it, which total 5 terabytes, so I'm going to actually try to move my video editing onto that machine, because it's a lot more capable. Nothing to see on the screen now. Over here, I stacked the storage bins as high as you could get. You can never have too much storage when you're doing hobby stuff. So this area, and then that's just an old MacBook. I usually only use that when I'm on the road. This will double, you know, not only as a workstation to do my designs for the 3D prints and some video editing, but I can also kind of clear this space up a little bit and use it as a work surface for models and other things. And to that effect, this one's not remote controlled, but I did install some task lighting so that this is very well lit and I can work doing models and train stuff and whatever I need to here. And so there's more storage and stuff underneath. I got a nice slim trash can with a foot pedal that's easy to access. I'm actually using this stool in this room. I used to have this in my home office, but I swapped it with my desk chair. And I do need to repaint this room because you can see that's where the old chair used to rest. But given that I'm not going to spend as much time in this room, I like this stool because it just gets out of the way. You can see I don't really have a lot of room to walk between things. So that opens it up. I have some more drawers for storage down here. And a whole bunch of storage under here. This is primarily going to be the materials for the 3D printers and the Cricut. And I bought these beautiful Conrail blue bins at a store called At Home. They came in black, white, gray, or Conrail blue. You could tell I had a really tough time making that decision. So that's basically the setup for the work area part of this room. And it's nice looking at it and filming it now because this is probably the neatest and cleanest it'll ever be. When I get into projects, I tend to work fairly messy. I think a lot of us do. So I wanted to film this today while it was still pretty neat and orderly. This is just some accessories for the resin printers that I need to figure out what to do with. And we're back to the Cricut Maker. So then looking across the room, it's kind of an odd thing to do here. I had some extra hooks and I just mounted some tools to get them out of the way. I use that yardstick constantly. This spatula is actually to get stuff off the bed of the 3D printers when they get stuck. And then I had a couple of pegboards that I had bought on sale at Target one time with no real use in mind. And I figured they would come in handy here. I'm not sure for what yet, but again, it'll be somewhere that I can tack up papers and notes and hopefully keep the desk from being too cluttered. This cork board I used to use a lot until one of my cats scratched it all up. So that's her artwork. That's Danny's artwork. We'll just leave that on the wall. And then this is sort of my revenge on Danny, as I finally have a place to put all of my magnets. I like to collect magnets when I travel. I've got 2 from last year's trip to Horseshoe Curve, 1 from Strasbourg. This was going to Myrtle Beach quite a few years ago. This was Penn's Cave from, I believe, the same year. That was also Myrtle Beach. This was something my sister painted for me. And, of course, we got a GG1 magnet and a Reading and Northern magnet from my Bud Car ride last year. The story about magnets, I love magnets. I used to have a refrigerator covered with magnets. And then one morning around 2:30 in the morning, I was woken up to a lot of commotion. And the same cat, Danny, who clawed up this board, she was busy taking every magnet I had off the refrigerator. So I had to finish the job and put them where she couldn't bother them. Now I can finally have my magnets. And those are not winning lottery numbers. That's just my calibration efforts for the filament printer for the first level height. That's a complicated topic. We'll deal with that later. And then you've seen this side of the room before. I've neatened things up considerably. It is a lot of storage, but I've actually got it organized. This is a lot of my N scale tracks and switches and stuff to be installed. I actually got some N scale cars hiding in there. Spare Legos, always need those. A couple more bins that I picked up and just, again, keep random stuff organized. And this Jackery, I originally bought this as a backup power supply because we have frequent prolonged outages here and storms, just because we don't have much redundancy in the grid. But I decided in the meantime I can use that to power my N-scale layout because, as I mentioned before, the only switch in the room is way over there, and I think I've routed enough wires. So I do need to get back to working on this. This has not changed a whole lot since you last saw it because I've been working on the room itself. I do need to find a way to mount this Kato power pack so it's a little more accessible. That wire, that's the power going to it. That'll actually be routed through the foam so it's not hanging over the edge. The only change since you last saw this is I had sort of an S-bend in the curve here originally, and it was terrible for coupling cars. So I straightened that out, and even though it looks like it's hanging over the edge now, this is a temporary piece of foam, and when I cut the permanent piece of foam, which will be one of my next steps, that'll go back a little bit further. We've got Resin Northern's MP15 switcher, number 1542. And my friend JP Videos recently posted a video seeing this locomotive in action, which was pretty exciting for me. And then for now, this shelf is all N-scale storage. This is a lot of my older locomotives and cars. And then anything that's still in its box is generally a newer one. Got a couple GG1s, you've seen those before. There are some new cars like this Lehigh Valley coal hopper and this Carbon County Railway coal hopper, along with several other railroads coal hoppers that I'll be doing a video of those soon. And I got my sign that was given to me as a gift by Dennis for Christmas mounted on the wall. One of my first Cricut projects will be to make a black vinyl cat to add to it. In the meantime, we've got an old Beanie Baby waiting on the other platform to catch its train. And we got a couple more projects here. I will be doing a review on this Woodland Station, which was also a gift from Dennis. This is going to be a spring project. This was actually given to me by my best friend Jason, and it's something I'll be building this spring. Though I'm probably not going to make a video series of it. I'll probably just do one video when it's done. These are some lighting kits for Legos. That will be the subject of some upcoming videos, including this one. You might recall I built this beautiful crocodile locomotive over Christmas. And one of those lighting kits is for this locomotive. The other is for the Las Vegas skyline, which is currently in another room. And you'll probably recognize a lot of this other stuff from my recent gift videos. This radio here is one of the few things that was not a gift. I actually bought that at the Industrial History Museum in Bethlehem. It's got the old school radio look, but it's actually a Bluetooth speaker, which is really cool. I've got my HO diesel from RJ. And my HO tank car from the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. I do want to get some track to put those on better display. Got myself a screaming goat. Those of you who watch Rusty 78609 will know the screaming goat very well. And those of you who watch RV Living with the Geezer, you'll know that Calvin sent some of his alien friends to visit. I actually bought that, but I think of Calvin every time I play with that. So we got our little UFO. We got our train from Tracy and Leah Phillips. And then some Lego cars that I bought, along with some figures that my sister gave me. And then just more storage up top. I'll probably end up getting more bins and baskets just to put the finished products up there till they sell. In the meantime, I've got a few other projects. It's upside down. That's a 1957 Chevy Bel Air that's ready to be painted. That'll have to wait till the spring because I can't spray paint indoors. I'll have to take that outside. And I don't know if you can see, there's another stuffed cat up there that was a gift from a friend. We've got our Andorian Tribble. And we've got Melvin, the mascot of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, and then a dragon for the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. Not their mascot, but I like dragons. So that's about it, guys. This room is actually mostly storage space, but I finally have somewhere that I can run my equipment and not have it trampled by cats. Oh, and I got one more, it's the one place in the house that I actually have pretty good lighting. I've got a desk lamp there too in case that's not enough light. But this was intended to just be a quick tour. It probably already went on longer than I intended, but I will be doing a lot more videos in the future, both of my efforts with 3D printing, with using the Cricut, and of course with continuing to build this switching layout. And I want to get back to this weekend. I do want to make some additional track changes. What I'm specifically looking at doing is relocating some of the switches, because right now I have enough room to get this locomotive onto the ends of the main line here. But I literally have this long main line and I literally cannot get any of the rolling stock on there with the locomotive. So I think what I'm going to try to do is move this pair of switches to here, and then move this switch to here. But I may have to get an additional switch to make this a pair of switches, and then I can have yet another siding. So that's kind of the hold up there. And if you're with me this long, I'll just give you a sneak preview of what's coming up after I do the track changes. The other thing I have to do, these are Kato number 4 turnouts, which are tighter radius than their more common number 6. And technically speaking, I'm having some issues with them. They are notorious for derailments. Fortunately, the fixes seem pretty easy. So before I permanently attach this track down, I'm going to do the modifications to the switches and some additional testing. And those modifications will be in their own video in case you want to learn to do the same on your layout. And then I also want to letter and detail this bridge. When I say detail, I guess I mean weather. I want to do that before permanently putting it in place. And that's going to be one of my first projects on the Cricut, is to cut the lettering out of vinyl and stick it on the side. And what it will be the name of my railroad, which will also be the same name as my 3D printing business. And I'm not ready to reveal that yet because I have filed for my LLC, but I'm still waiting for the approval from the state. Just make sure nobody else has the name. I don't think they do, but we'll keep it under wraps until then. And then after that bridge is all painted and lettered, then I will start to cut the permanent foam. It's not going to hang off the edge of the frame like that. This track will have to be shortened. I do have some additional bumpers to put in. I bought them. I haven't put them in yet. But this white piece of foam and then all of these little pieces of wood and tracks that are temporarily supporting this, this will be replaced with green foam board, which will be the landscape, as will this white block of foam that's currently supporting this side of the track. So anyway, consider that the bonus footage. I know I said I was going to end this video a couple minutes ago, but I know a lot of you who watch are very curious to see how this layout develops, and those are the episodes that'll be coming next. So I hope you enjoyed both the information about that layout and the tour of the printing press and the equipment that I've set up in it. And we've got a lot more fun to come, but for today, thank you for watching.